In the final dungeon of 9 Worlds, the SSS-Rank Primal Purgatory Fiend is barely standing, but so is our boy Susumu Hoda on his 32nd raid attempt and also near death. He's the last one left alive after his entire party got wiped out yet again, but he's absolutely convinced this is the run where he'll finally hit level 100. Staring down the colossal demon, he knows this is his only shot at glory since the prize is an ultimate awakening to rebuild his family's name. With everything on the line, he channels all his remaining power into one final strike. He boldly declares himself the ultimate player as he soars through the air, unleashing his signature move, the Annihilation Slash, with a dramatic flourish. And it actually works, slicing the final boss clean in half as the rewards start rolling in. As Susumu collapses from exhaustion, he celebrates his hard-fought victory, convinced the ultimate awakening is finally his for the taking. But a voice congratulates him, and it's his teammate Akira, looking suspiciously healthy. Susumu scrambles up, realizing Akira must have been playing dead the entire time, and Akira just smirks, confirming it's way too late for him to do anything, because he's activating a skill to steal every single reward from the raid, trapping Susumu in a vortex of dark energy as the loot flies past him. And our boy absolutely loses it, screaming in pure disbelief and rage, demanding to know why his own teammate would betray him like this. Akira just scoffs, mocking his rock-bottom family name and his pathetic dreams. Akira gloats over his perfect health, revealing he's a level 99 Dark Archbishop, but even on his last legs, Susumu grits his teeth, refusing to let this betrayal stand, swearing that he'll make Akira regret this and will absolutely come back for revenge. To which Akira just smirks, revealing he's hired assassins to wipe out the Hoda family in real life, and the horrifying news completely shatters Susumu's composure. Just as his entire game interface glitches out with a forced logout warning, his connection to 9 Worlds is severed, yanking him back to reality, where he wakes up to an assassin in a suit pointing a gun right at his face, and the hitman grabs him by the hair, holding him completely helpless, forcing him to see his own mother lying dead on the floor. With a gun to his head, Susumu screams at the hitman, demanding to know if Akira sent him, but the assassin wastes no time with chatter, immediately pulling the trigger to finish the job. As his life fades, Susumu can only think about how painfully close he was to finally winning. All his dreams of restoring the Hoda family's glory are now shattering along with his consciousness. He flashes back to his grandfather, reminding him of their family's prestigious, untarnishable name, followed by the memory of father being framed and disgraced by the rival Ryozaki family. His final thought is a desperate wish for a do-over, and then he suddenly finds himself in a classroom. He's completely bewildered, looking around at what is clearly his old high school. Our boy is understandably confused, since he's pretty sure he was just shot in the head. At that moment, a familiar bully named Saburo strolls up to extort his allowance money. Susumu's just remembering how his family name makes him a target for literally everyone, so of course Saburo gets tired of being ignored and throws a wild punch to get his attention. But instead of connecting, Susumu catches the fist without even looking, and with a quick twist, he slams the bully face first onto a desk with zero effort. Turns out his body still remembers all the combat moves from his 9 Worlds warrior class. He realizes that even without the final prize, his body has been seriously upgraded from all that grinding. All that effort wasn't wasted, giving him a real-world power-up instead of just memories. And now we get the big picture. 9 Worlds is a god-tier game that directly influences reality. It's how people get rich and famous, but the real prize is hitting level 100 for an ultimate awakening, which lets you bring your insane game skills into the real world and become a superpowered awakened one. Turns out, 9 Worlds is how people grab absolute power and wealth in this reality, which is why literally everyone grinds day and night to change their destiny. Susumu knows he's been given a second chance, a do-over to fix everything, but his moment of clarity is cut short by his teacher accusing him of bullying. The guy is his homeroom teacher, and he immediately drags Susumu to the faculty office. Once there, the teacher lays into him for supposedly disturbing the class harmony, mocking him about whether he still thinks his prestigious family name means anything anymore. That's when Susumu realizes the teacher was just waiting for him to fight back, concluding this guy must have been bought and paid for by the rival Ryuzaki family. Turns out the Hoda and Ryuzaki clans were the two biggest powers, constantly at each other's throats. Susumu recalls how a suspicious plane crash wiped out his family's leadership, instantly ruining their name, and of course the Ryuzaki family swooped right in to steal all their territory and assets, which is exactly what the teacher is rubbing in his face, telling him he's no longer a young master, capping off his little speech by calling Susumu nothing but a ruined loser. A decision he immediately regrets when Susumu grabs him by the collar, absolutely furious, and the teacher instantly starts panicking, threatening to call security on the student he just provoked. But Susumu calls his bluff, revealing he knows all about the dirty money from the Ryuzaki family, threatening to get his teaching license revoked before shoving the corrupt teacher aside with contempt. That's when it hits him. Today is the official release day for 9 Worlds, his only hope for revenge, and with his memories of the future, he knows he can get a massive head start on everyone else. He's dead set on reaching Ultimate Awakening first, blaming himself for his mom's murder last time around, arriving at the rundown Hoda residence with a new plan to keep his identity completely secret. With his hand on the door, Susumu swears he will protect his mother no matter what happens, And just like that, she's right there in the kitchen, alive and welcoming him home. She's even got dinner ready, completely unaware of the horrifying future he just escaped from. Seeing her safe and sound hits him like a truck, and he can barely keep his composure, which of course his mom immediately picks up on, asking if he's feeling unwell. Over dinner, she tries to cheer him up by teasing him about girls and his studies, saying she's just happy to see him so lively, completely oblivious to the real reason. Back in his room, Susumu steals his resolve, knowing the game releases tonight at 7 p.m. Susumu grabs the clunky old headset he saved up for, ready to dive into the game, strapping on with a confident smirk, ready to get back to work. Seconds later, he's greeted by the familiar login screen for 9 Worlds, and the game immediately prompts him to select a starting class, just like he remembers, but our boy knows the secret is to refuse the initial offer to unlock a hidden trial. While normal classes cap out at S-Rank, this hidden path can lead all the way to SSS-Rank power, so he confidently selects no, instantly triggering the endless battle of purgatory trial. He was only an S-Rank warrior in his past life, but this time he's changing his destiny, vowing to become nothing less than an SSS-Rank god of war. And with that, the trial begins, dropping him straight into a fiery hellscape. The game drops him straight into the purgatory trial, giving him a chance to start over, and he's immediately prompted to pick a weapon, knowing instantly that a sword is the only choice. Turns out this first decision determines his entire hidden class path for the game, and since he's gunning for SSS rank God of War, there's only one real option. Without hesitation, he grabs the blade, declaring this is his ticket straight to the top, and the system responds by generating a custom sword tailored specifically for his potential. He recognizes it as the Heat Haze Crested Sword, the same one from his past life, and this time he's planning to use it to absolutely steamroll this first trial. Just then, the trial officially kicks off, throwing a massive horde of monsters at him, as a system alert confirms his worst fears, infinite waves of enemies are headed his way. The ghoulish monsters swarm him with glowing red eyes, ready to tear him apart, but Susumu just smirks, completely unimpressed by their little display of aggression. With his signature sword in hand, he carves through the mob in a blur of red energy, declaring that when it comes to being a monster, he's got them all beat. Meanwhile, at the 9 Worlds R&D Center, alarms are going off about a player in a hidden trial. The head researcher immediately orders his team to track down this mystery player's coordinates, sending his top technicians scrambling to pinpoint the user's location on their systems. Unfortunately for them, Susumu's clunky old headset makes him completely untraceable on their network. The director absolutely refuses to let some random nobody with cheap gear upstage his entire operation, so he orders his own elite R&D players to log in and beat Susumu to the prize. A lead researcher tells her elite squad that failure is absolutely not an option, as the R&D director reveals they might have built the game, but they don't control it. Turns out 9 Worlds is actually a living, breathing reality with its own rules, and the fate of the entire world apparently rests on stopping some kind of apocalypse prophecy. Meanwhile, Susumu is fighting in a trial with 100% pain feedback that could literally fry his brain, but our boy is just getting warmed up, completely unfazed by the endless hordes, scoffing that compared to the SSS rank bosses from his past life, these guys are a joke, and he continues carving through them as his progress bar slowly ticks up to 63%. But realizing he's not even close to done only hardens his resolve into pure battle lust, demanding the pathetic bugs witness the birth of the one and only God of War. Meanwhile, the R&D director's elite players are getting absolutely wrecked by the trial's pain feedback, with most of them logging out in droves, screaming that they can't take the agony anymore. A researcher reports that almost everyone has quit before even hitting 20% completion, but the director coldly states that changing the game's source code is now impossible. Since the system evolves on its own, they can only hope one of their elites survives the meat grinder. The dropout rate is already at a staggering 95.6%, with only 23 players remaining, which is when another tech does the math and realizes there should only be 22 people left, meaning there's one untraceable player still in the simulation, and it's obviously Susumu. When they pull up his progress, the entire team is stunned to see he's at 99.9%, and the director immediately assumes he must be using some kind of impossible exploit to win. With the last of the endless horde finally cleared, Susumu turns to face the final challenge, and he's actually grinning, thinking the trial is finally about to get interesting. He calls out the final boss of this purgatory, daring it to come out and fight. And the grand prize is a pale, knockoff version of himself, which he immediately roasts. Though he has to admit the copycat's flaming green sword does look pretty impressive. His evil twin doesn't waste any time on banter, lunging forward with a vicious strike, but Susumu is more than ready, vowing to end this entire trial in one clean shot. Their blades meet in a blinding flash of red and green energy that rocks the entire arena. The two are locked in a brutal power struggle, neither one willing to give an inch, until Susumu unleashes a decisive swing, ready to shatter his pale imitation for good. Susumu grits his teeth through the pain, mocking his copycat opponent's pathetic imitation of him, and with one final overwhelming push, he completely shatters the doppelganger into green dust, proving the original is always better as the system confirms he's cleared the purgatory trial. As his reward, the game starts generating a unique exclusive hidden class just for him, granting him the S-Rank Ultimate Swordsman with a passive that doubles all sword stats. And our boy is absolutely floored, since his old S-Rank class only gave an 80% boost boost at max level. The single passive skill is already more powerful than a second awakening from his past life. Not to mention his King's Arsenal skill could stack up to a staggering 450% stat increase, a reward so ridiculously overpowered he can barely comprehend the potential it holds. Because it's basically a legendary tier passive that also unlocks 3 epic advancement quests. He realizes these advancement quests could push him past the second tier into a whole new level of power, a third tier class he's never even heard of, which means a totally unprecedented evolution is possible. With his new title locked in, Susumu declares this is where the Hoda clan's revival officially begins, and his first move is to snag a legendary weapon hidden deep within the starting village's quests, a one-of-a-kind S-rank divine sword with a dark attribute guarded by a boss named Pandora. According to his future knowledge, she's a psychotic S-rank boss, but a little danger isn't stopping him, because this time around, he's playing aggressive to guarantee a completely different outcome. And just like that, he's officially back in the world of 9 worlds, ready to get started. Our boy throws his arms open, absolutely thrilled to be back in the game he once dominated, as the system drops him in Domo Village, a remote border town in the Flame Radiance Kingdom. Susumu takes a moment to soak in the nostalgia of Domo Village, looking way too confident for a newbie, deciding his first move is to find some NPCs after hiding his overpowered class to avoid unwanted attention. He pulls up his interface, masking his Ultimate Swordsman title with a generic warrior job instead, which the system confirms, leaving him free to operate completely under the radar without any flashy moves. With his cover set, he recalls his first major objective, snagging that S-rank Dark Element Divine Sword, but to get it, he needs to clear Pandora's secret stage, and that quest only triggers at level 5. So his immediate priority is getting a weapon and some basic skills from a very specific instructor. He quickly locates the novice swordsman instructor's house, a place already swarming with other new players, and remembering how hard it was to even get here last time, he strolls right inside with zero hesitation, walking through the grand hall like he already owns the place, ready to get his first advantage. He finds the novice swordsman instructor, Owen, who immediately asks if he's here for a quest, and Susumu plays the part of a clueless newbie, confidently asking for his first mission. He's already got the entire village map memorized, so he figures this will be an easy fetch quest, and Owen promises him a skill and a weapon if he can actually pull it off. But the quest isn't quite what our boy was expecting. Instead of delivering mail, he has to survive the instructor's attacks for 30 whole seconds. Owen wastes no time drawing a massive sword and telling him to get lost if he can't handle it, leaving even Susumu a little surprised by the brutality of this supposed novice trial, until he remembers Owen is secretly a high-ranking general from the Flame Radiance Kingdom, a man who retired from the battlefield after being forced to kill his own best friend in the war. Susumu sizes up the instructor, pegging him at level 70, a ridiculous challenge for any newbie, and Owen naturally tries to intimidate him, asking if the little level 1 is scared yet, even giving him a generous offer to turn tail and run away like a total coward. But our boy just smirks, calling a 30-second survival trial an absolute piece of cake. He's actually thrilled for a real fight, eager to see what happens if he actually wins this thing, so Owen promises not to hold back, saying he'll treat him like a proper level 10 opponent. And with that, he lunges forward with a devastating strike, telling the kid to brace himself. Susumu raises his blade, ready to meet the retired general's full-force attack head-on, their swords colliding in a shower of sparks that shakes the entire training hall. And that's when he realizes his new body can't possibly handle this level of raw power. Owen is genuinely surprised the kid actually managed to block his sword, so he decides to see just how many more of those he can take. Susumu effortlessly dodges the next massive swing that craters the floor, which even manages to impress the retired general for a split second. The assault continues relentlessly, forcing Susumu to parry another brutal strike, as Owen unleashes a flurry of attacks he thinks are impossible to avoid, and Susumu knows his rusty iron sword won't survive this absolute beatdown. He's getting pushed back with every single block as his weapon starts to crack, but even while getting overwhelmed, he spots a critical opening in the pattern, immediately exploiting it by flipping right over Owen's head for a counter. Susumu knows Owen's battlefield style leaves a huge opening after every big swing, so he dives in for a clean shot at the instructor's completely exposed back, but Owen just smirks, instantly pivoting to meet the attack with a brutal upward slash. Our boy is completely stunned by the general's impossibly fast recovery time as Owen grins, ready to teach this cocky newbie a lesson in raw power, and their swords clash with enough force to shivers down Susumu's spine. The retired general unleashes a devastating whirlwind attack that sends Susumu flying, just as the system announces the 30-second trial has officially concluded. Susumu kneels in the dust, furious that he got blown away at the very last second, until Owen extends a hand, declaring that the victory is actually his. Owen gives him props for lasting the full 30 seconds, even if he got totally wrecked, and he pulls our boy to his feet, officially passing him on the brutal little test. Susumu just smirks, promising that the next time they fight, he'll be the one winning, which impresses Owen enough to hand over the promised skill scroll as his reward. And he even throws in a special bonus, a brand new E+ rank iron sword. Susumu happily accepts the new gear, tossing his old rusty blade aside without a second thought, and gives his shiny new weapon a test swing with a very confident look on his face. As Susumu gets ready to hit the beginner's area, Owen admits the kid is seriously good because it turns out the general actually broke his promise to treat him like a level 10. admitting to himself that he unleashed the power of a level 20 for that final blow. Susumu checks the skill scroll Owen gave him, completely stunned by what he sees. It's an A-rank skill, Zilla's Flame, which converts his health into a massive fire damage boost. He realizes the normal quest only gives a weak E-rank aura, making this a huge bonus for impressing the general. With his new power, he decides to skip the easy stuff and head straight for the toughest beginner zone. Out in the wilderness, all the other new players are getting absolutely steamrolled by the local wildlife, with one guy getting his face clawed off by what looks like an angry house cat, while another gets taken down by a surprisingly vicious killer rabbit. The entire field is pure chaos, with newbies running around completely clueless about how to fight. Susumu just smirks at the mess, knowing it'll take days for anyone else to figure out a strategy, so of course some random player tries to warn him away from the harder monsters, having no idea who he is. Susumu just waves off the friendly advice, announcing he's after a much bigger target, declaring he's going straight for the fireboars, the toughest monsters in the entire forest, because he needs to power level fast to stay ahead of any other skilled players on his tail. With a confident smirk, he heads deep into the woods, right into the boar's territory. Knowing these things are extremely territorial and will attack anyone who wanders in, and right on cue, a massive fireboar comes charging straight out of the trees. The system identifies it as a level 3 adult, which would normally flatten any newbie, but Susumu isn't even phased, since he already knows its tough hide has a critical weak spot. He expertly dodges the attack, remembering the golden rule is to always aim for the soft parts, and a single precise strike is all it takes to one-shot the beast and rake in the experience. One-shotting the boar brings his level-up progress to a solid 52%, and he knows the XP boost from high-level mobs is the fastest way to the top. With that math, he figures just one more kill is all he needs to finally level up, and speak of the devil, 3 more adult fireboars come charging out of the woods. Susumu is absolutely thrilled, practically thanking them for showing up right on cue. This seems like the perfect chance to test out that new A-rank skill from the general. He activates Zilla's Flame, buffing his iron sword with a 30% fire damage boost. With his blade now glowing with power, he squares up against the first charging boar, unleashing a powerful swing, eager to see what his new flaming sword can really do, and he's about to give this overgrown pig a face full of pure elemental damage. The new skill turns the fight into a light show as Susumu weaves between the charging boars, and he slices through them with ease, raking in a massive chunk of experience points, a power-up so good he actually levels up to 3, already way ahead of his old schedule. Of course, that just attracts 2 more angry pigs who come charging right for him, but Susumu just grins, ready to turn this entire forest into his personal XP farm. A short while later, the whole field is littered with the glitching remains of his victims. With all the minions cleared out, he knows it's finally time to take on the area boss. And speak of the devil, the level 5 Fire Boar King, already in an enraged state. Susumu greets the boss like an old friend, casually wondering how long it's been since their last fight. He even smirks, remembering how this easy boss gave him a run for his money last time around. The enraged Fireboar King lets out a furious roar, ready to flatten any newbie in its path, and Susumu recalls how this monster is a major roadblock for beginners with its insane stats, since even a glancing blow from this thing is usually enough to end a player's run. The common strategy is to never ever confront it head-on, which is exactly why our boy smirks, ready to do the one thing nobody else would dare. He meets the boar's charge with his glowing sword, refusing to back down an inch, timing his strike perfectly to shove the blade right down the monster's throat, because its only weak point is conveniently located inside its wide-open mouth. A single well-placed attack completely obliterates the boss, netting him a huge XP reward, instantly bumping him to level 5 and unlocking the secret quest for Pandora. Just as the boss glitches out, it drops 2 glowing orbs of loot for our boy, who snatches them out of the air, already expecting some decent beginner gear. The system immediately starts identifying his brand new prizes, revealing an E-rank ring that doubles as a handy 5-slot inventory. His second drop is a piece of E+ armor with solid defense and fire resistance stats, and Susumu is thrilled, knowing both items are a huge boost for the early game. He immediately equips the ring, testing out its storage by popping the new armor inside, but then remembers he needs a specific material, eyeing the boar's corpse for parts. Without hesitating, he carves a massive rib right out of the dead monster's side, holding up the freshly sharpened bone, now perfectly prepped for his next quest. With his new gear stashed, Susumu is ready to finally tackle the Pandora's secret hidden stage. But before he can do that, he remembers there's one more crucial item he needs to grab, first a key piece that will guarantee he can actually accept the high-stakes mission. So he heads straight for the house of Priestess Els, the local mage instructor who holds the key, because Pandora's secret is a one-time subquest for the entire village's main storyline, and knowing it's a limited-time offer, he wastes no time pushing his way right inside. He strolls in unannounced, catching the priestess completely off guard while she's polishing her staff. Els immediately calls him out for not being a mage, demanding to know what he wants with her. And that's when he remembers to even get the quest, he needs to raise her affection level to 7. But barging in has her affection at a rock bottom too, and our boy immediately starts to panic. But our boy just smirks, since he's already got the perfect solution ready to go, remembering from his past life that Els is involved in a complicated multi-part quest, and the key to triggering it is a specific datura flower he already snagged earlier. So he strolls right up to her, smoothly offering to help with her little predicament, and the priestess is completely floored when he pulls out the rare purple flower. Turns out this flower is a huge deal for the entire village's main quest line, acting as a secret symbol for a hostile organization that Els is a member of. By showing it to her, he's basically giving the secret handshake to prove he's an ally, which works perfectly, as she immediately asks him to stop a rogue flame warhorse, and with the E-rank quest officially activated, Susumu confidently accepts the mission. With the quest accepted, Susumu heads straight out, already knowing his next target is a rogue warhorse, and he's not worried, since he remembers exactly how this whole out-of-control steed situation plays out. Turns out it's a group quest where a bunch of players try to tame the beast for a prize, but our boy plans to solo the entire village questline, starting with this one fiery horse. He arrives at the Warhorse Ranch, which is already packed with other clueless newbies, taking in the familiar sight with a smirk, feeling like he's been here 1,000 times before. Right on cue, the rampaging flaming warhorse makes its grand, chaotic entrance, and he remembers just how badly this thing beat him down in his past life. He quickly spots the quest-giving NPC, a ranch breeder named Jim, standing right there. Knowing this is the key to Pandora's labyrinth, he strolls right up to the guy. Jim the rancher immediately asks if Susumu is the hero here to tame the flaming warhorse, and our boy confidently confirms he's on a special request from Priestess Els herself. The rancher is thrilled, counting Susumu as the 8th person to join the big group quest, but Susumu immediately recognizes 3 other players as famous elites from his past life, realizing that if they're here, then all the other top-tier players must be gathering too. Sure enough, he spots a familiar rogue and a beast tamer with his little monkey sidekick, followed by a well-known archer and priest, confirming the whole gang has shown up. It seems while he was busy in the hidden trial, everyone else has already caught up to level 5, but he just smirks, announcing to himself that their efforts are pointless now that he's arrived, which the other players overhear, immediately roasting him for being a no-name wannabe with no skills. Susumu just smirks, knowing these guys have no clue he's already way ahead of the curve, using a fake name to keep his overpowered skills and true identity completely under wraps. The rancher wastes no time, shouting for the 8 chosen heroes to get in there and subdue the horse, and with the quest officially live, the other players realize the competition is all level 5 already. The crowd immediately notices that 7 of the elites have formed parties, while Susumu is going solo, which they all agree is a guaranteed way to get himself killed in this group event. That's when the local guard captain Forbes decides to make things interesting by suggesting a little wager. The crowd is instantly on board, gathering around the captain to place their bets on the outcome, and a betting screen pops up showing the established parties with low odds, making Susumu a massive underdog. Forbes eggs them on, promising a big payout for anyone brave enough to bet on the long shot. The crowd immediately starts throwing money down, with Room's balanced party looking like the safest bet, and all the small-time players are dropping a few copper coins on the teams they think can actually win. That's when someone drops a massive 50-coin bet on Mob King, and the crowd absolutely loses its mind. They all agree it's a total waste of money since our boy is going in completely solo. A fact the other elites are quick to point out when Susumu reveals he's the one who bet on himself. He just coolly tosses his coin purse over, completely unbothered by their shock and ridicule, and the guard captain happily accepts the wager, locking in the massive bet on the overwhelming underdog. Forbes just smirks, thinking this cocky kid is about to learn a very painful lesson in humility, while the beast tamer mocks him, asking if his pet monkey has more brains than Susumu, and the other elites agree, writing him off as just another arrogant newbie about to get crushed. Susumu cuts off the trash talk, announcing the main event is about to begin, and right on cue, the flaming warhorse comes charging into the arena with pure rage. The first elite team immediately coordinates, planning to blind the beast while their tank draws aggro. The crowd goes absolutely wild for their teamwork, thinking the fight is already over, but our boy just smirks, knowing their pathetic attack won't even leave a scratch on this thing. Their brilliant plan instantly fails as the horse sends the tank flying with a single kick before effortlessly wiping out the rest of his party in a blur of chaotic motion. A system alert confirms all 3 players are down, leaving the entire crowd completely stunned, and Susumu explains that a level 5 body can't handle this special out-of-control horse. Realizing they're outmatched, the beast tamer calls on his partner to back him up with skills. The beast tamer unleashes a massive purple spell, trying to subdue the rampaging warhorse, and for a second, the glowing magic actually seems to freeze the fiery beast in place, giving his rogue partner the perfect opening to charge in while it's supposedly immobilized. Their genius plan is to stop its movements first, then go for the takedown, so the rogue leaps onto its back, ready to show everyone how it's done. Susumu just watches, realizing they're combining tamer skills with rogue agility to ride it out, but he smirks, knowing their little strategy is about to spectacularly backfire. as the horse immediately bucks, sending the overconfident player flying with a brutal kick. A system alert confirms the rogue's HP has hit 0, knocking him out of the fight, and his beast tamer partner immediately follows, leaving the other elites completely stunned. Susumu knows this horse can't be tamed with brute force since there's a hidden mechanic at play, and the crowd is panicking, realizing only one elite party and our boy are left standing. But Susumu just scoffs at the idea of failure, casually stepping into the arena, announcing with a confident grin that it's finally his turn to handle things. The enraged warhorse lets out a furious roar, its eyes glowing with pure rage, and it continues its rampage, thrashing wildly and completely out of control, coming straight for him in a blur of fire and pure destructive power. But Susumu reveals he knows the real source of its pain is something stuck in its ear. He vows to crush whatever is causing the problem, his eyes glowing with sudden power, and he charges straight at the rampaging horse, a move everyone else thinks is pure suicide. The crowd absolutely loses it, screaming that our boy is just throwing his life away as the flaming beast charges, and everyone is convinced he's about to be trampled into dust. But Susumu calmly sidesteps the charge, waiting for the perfect opening to make his move, and in a flash he leaps onto its back, grabbing the fiery mane to ride the bucking beast. Reaching for its left ear, he promises to save it, knowing exactly what's wrong. Turns out a nasty parasitic bug is the real source of its rage, and the key to Pandora's secret. With a confident smirk, he focuses on extracting the parasite, knowing he's almost there. Of course, the horse immediately starts thrashing wildly, trying to send him flying. And even Susumu has to admit that controlling this thing is a genuine life-or-death struggle, his hands gripping the reins so hard you can practically feel the immense strain. He whips out that sharpened boar rib he prepped earlier, ready to perform some amateur surgery. Turns out the heated fireboar oil plate was his secret weapon for this exact moment, and he wastes no time jamming the bone right into the horse's ear to kill the parasite, scoring a direct hit on the nasty little bug causing all the chaos. The horse absolutely loses it, bucking wildly as its rage finally boils over, and it sends Susumu flying through the air in a last-ditch effort to shake him off. But our boy lands perfectly on his feet as the now-cured horse finally calms down. With the dead bug on his makeshift spear, he smirks at the crowd, asking who was betting against him, leaving all the so-called elites completely speechless that a solo player actually pulled it off. Just as a system alert pops up, revealing that his little stunt has unlocked some hidden information. Turns out the parasite was a purple hallucination bug, and killing it unlocks hidden main quest info, a secret our boy is thrilled to get, since he never managed to find it in his past life. He knows this is the key to finally unlocking the entire Pandora's secret questline, and holding the dead bug, he vows that this time, failure is absolutely not an option. But before he can even check the new info, he's interrupted by the other players, as the last remaining elite party decides they're not quite done with him yet. The priest immediately buffs his archer partner with a Curse of Sharpness spell, a nasty little trick that boosts damage while simultaneously shredding the target's defense. With the buff only lasting 3 minutes, the archer confidently takes aim at our boy, yelling that a warrior who can't fight is no match for them as he unleashes a glowing arrow. The crowd finally realizes the elite party's plan wasn't to tame the horse at all, but to just let someone so steal the work and then kill the winner to steal the prize. But our boy just smirks, remembering how this exact cheap shot got him killed in his past life. And this time he's more than ready, effortlessly catching the glowing arrow with his bare hand. He crushes the projectile into dust, activating a rare skill called Perfect Grip in the process, knowing that while his level is low, his actual combat skills are on a completely different planet. The system confirms the skill, granting him a massive 30% stat boost for 3 minutes, which leaves the archer absolutely speechless, since that kind of power is basically superhuman. Even the crowd is losing their minds, since Perfect Grip is a legendary skill only seen in promo videos, and Susumu just stands there, knowing this is only the first phase of his true power. He knows this skill is just the beginning, with world-level control possible at higher levels, and with his sword now crackling with blue energy, he's ready to clean house, launching his blade like a boomerang straight at the archer who tried to gank him. The archer panics, desperately trying to prep a 3-arrow volley to counter the attack, while his priest partner screams at him to just shoot the damn thing already. But the guy is so terrified his hands are shaking, completely unable to aim properly. Susumu's sword slices through the air, effortlessly shattering the bow before he can even fire, and a system alert confirms the archer is officially out of the fight, completely one-shotted, leaving his priest partner absolutely frozen in terror, realizing he's next on the list. So the healer decides to go for a melee attack, swinging his staff like a total amateur. Susumu just scoffs, knowing a priest's melee skills are basically non-existent at this level, and in a flash, he's already behind the guy with his sword ready to strike, knocking the final elite out of the fight as the crowd loses its mind over the upset. The guard captain officially declares Mob King the winner, announcing his massive 3-to-1 payout, and as his sword flies back into his hand, he collects a cool 150 copper coins. With the so-called elites handled, he calmly approaches the now docile flaming warhorse, gently stroking its mane to show that the danger is finally over, which is all it takes for the system to recognize him as its master, granting him a level 5 mount. He immediately hops on his new ride, ready to finally accept the Pandora's secret quest, but then remembers the hidden info he got, realizing it unlocks a unique main quest nobody else can get. With the hidden info he unlocked, he's planning to snag that S-rank divine sword and leave everyone in the dust, an opportunity he completely missed in his past life. But this time he's not letting it slip away. He rides back to Priestess Els, who's stunned he actually pulled it off, netting him a massive affection boost. That boost is exactly what he needed to trigger the next part of the village questline, so he immediately presents the glitching parasite he pulled out of the horse's ear, and Els's expression immediately darkens, clearly not happy to see that little bug, which is exactly the reaction Susumu was counting on based on his future knowledge. He explains the bug was the real culprit and asks to investigate further, knowing this is the key, because he remembers the exact trigger phrase he failed to use in his previous life. And just like that, Els's entire demeanor changes, her eyes glowing as she takes the bait. Els plays her part perfectly, asking if he wants to continue the investigation she just set up, and with a totally convincing smile, she offers him a brand new lead on a silver platter. The system immediately offers the quest to investigate Pandora's labyrinth, a total gimme, which is just a fancy way of saying he's about to snag that S-rank divine sword. He accepts without a second thought, officially kicking off the real reason he's here, and she wishes him luck, looking like the most helpful NPC in the entire village, but the second he's gone, she reveals anyone interfering with her mission will die in that labyrinth. Turns out she's part of a hostile group and needs to report the bug's discovery immediately, planning to use the chaos to help her organization completely take over Domo Village. While our boy just whistles, ready to call in his brand new ride for the trip. He summons his brand new E+ rank flaming warhorse, ready to ride out of town in style, and the other players are absolutely floored, immediately assuming he's some pay-to-win whale. But Susumu just smirks, knowing this game has no cash shop, you can't just buy your way to the top. He blazes through the village on his new ride, remembering this isn't just a game but a living world, arriving at the East Gate, where he knows the real challenge lies just beyond the village walls. Because every village is surrounded by two distinct zones, a general area and a free-for-all zone. The general area is for grinding mobs like those killer rabbits and boars, with no player killing allowed, but out in the free area, you've got tougher monsters and players who will kill you without a second thought. The danger level is obviously off the charts, but the potential rewards are significantly higher too, since killing another player lets you straight up plunder all of their hard-earned resources. He knows the free zone is a total meat grinder, but the loot and XP are worth the risk. But as he tries to leave, the gate guards immediately cross their spears, blocking his grand exit, telling him he's too weak to go outside, and the system confirms they're ready to throw down. Some random player starts laughing, explaining you can't leave the village until you're level 10, a tiny detail our boy completely forgot, leaving him stuck at the gate with his big plans. But then he remembers a little secret about this living world and pulls out his coin purse, confidently offering the guards a little something to look the other way with a knowing smirk, and the guards act offended, asking if he's seriously trying to bribe them in broad daylight. Their jaws drop when they see the bag is stuffed with a whopping 100 copper coins, which is apparently the magic number to get them to open the gate immediately, no questions asked. Susumu just smirks, knowing that in this living world, even the gate guards have a price tag, leaving the other players completely stunned that his little bribe actually worked, wondering where he got the cash. He rides out into the wilderness, figuring that paying them off was way easier than fighting his way out. But now that he's in the free-for-all zone, he knows he needs to watch his back for player killers. And he's practically giddy with excitement, wondering which unlucky idiot is going to try and gank him first. Right on cue, a couple of low-level PKers spot him from the bushes, sizing up their next target. Seeing a lone rider they immediately peg as easy prey, a fresh-faced newbie ripe for the picking. These guys live for player hunting, since killing someone lets you steal all their loot and XP, so they spring their ambush, charging in from both sides to finish him off quickly, only to realize he wasn't caught at all, he was just waiting for them to make a move. Susumu smirks, revealing he was just baiting the red name trash this whole time with a little act, and he's practically buzzing with excitement, promising to wipe every last one of them out. The PKers just laugh, calling him an edgy wannabe who's a lower level than them, but our boy just shrugs, saying they'll never know who's stronger unless they actually fight. He calmly tells his flaming warhorse to sit tight while he handles this little problem, promising they can go for a run right after he's done cleaning up the local riffraff. The PKers are furious, vowing to teach this arrogant newbie a lesson in raw power, boasting that the thief class is basically unbeatable when it comes to player versus player combat. They immediately coordinate a pincer attack, charging in from opposite sides to overwhelm him using a basic E-rank skill called Swift Thrust that our boy already sees coming a mile away. Susumu just smirks, activating his A-rank fire skill to take out the local trash, which immediately throws the PKers off, wondering what kind of power he's using, since a fire-based ability is completely unheard of for a warrior at this low level. The smarter of the two decides to let his overconfident partner test the waters first, and the guy charges in with Swift Thrust, absolutely certain no warrior can dodge it. He's banking on his thief-class speed boost to end the fight in one clean shot, only for Susumu to casually catch the blade with his bare freaking hand mid-lunge. The PKer tries to play it off, boasting that warriors are just stronger meat shields anyway, but our boy just holds the blade, completely unimpressed by the so-called unbeatable attack. His eyes glow red as he promises to make this beatdown look absolutely effortless. He doesn't just block the attack, he overloads the guy's blade with a burst of pure energy, instantly deleting the P-Keyer and netting himself a cool 10 fame points for taking out the trash. With one down, he turns to the other guy, basically daring him to even try and make a move, and he even throws in a little taunt, asking if the boss is weaker than his lackey. The remaining P-Keyer is absolutely furious, completely falling for the obvious bait, boasting that he's a whole level higher and could never lose to some random newbie as he charges in, planning to one-shot Susumu with a critical strike right to the neck. But our boy just smirks, activating perfect grip for a massive 30% stats suit, and then he uses the P-Keer's own swift thrust skill right back at him with the stolen dagger, appearing behind the guy in a flash to land a perfect fight-ending counterattack. The P-Keer is completely frozen as Susumu's counterattack comes in with blinding speed, landing a perfect strike right through the guy's chest with his own stolen dagger. The dude can't believe it, sputtering that there's no way Susumu could have dodged that attack, but our boy just smirks, explaining he didn't dodge, he just shifted out of the way. He even gives him a free lesson, pointing out that a critical hit can't trigger if you miss, and a system alert confirms the kill, netting Susumu a sweet 30 fame points for his trouble. That fame boost immediately unlocks the Guardian title, which gives him a solid 8% stat increase, and he realizes hunting down red-named players is a massive shortcut to power-ups. He immediately tells the system to hide the title, then turns to the loot on the ground, since killing a P-Keer means you get to steal every single thing they were carrying. After looting the bodies, he finds a mysterious map and a health potion for his troubles, and while chugging the potion, he realizes the map seems familiar, though the system says it's unidentified. Turns out it's a treasure map, a nice little bonus for taking out the local riffraff, but he decides to stash it for later, since Pandora's labyrinth is his top priority right now. He immediately summons his flaming warhorse, leaping onto its back to finally get moving, checking his inventory and deciding to keep the P-Keer's daggers to sell later for some quick cash. His 5-slot ring is now packed with his sword, Armguard the map, and those 2 daggers, so with everything sorted, he spurs his horse onward, dead set on reaching his destination. He finally arrives at a massive, ancient stone gate guarded by a single, imposing knight, and the silent guardian just watches as Susumu rides up, having finally reached the dungeon's entrance. He's thinking about the S-Rank Divine Sword, a weapon so rare it's practically a myth, and since he never got one in his past life, he's absolutely determined to snag it now. Of course, there's a final boss guarding the entrance, and he'll have to clear him first, a silent, armored knight whose glowing red eye promises a world of pain. The guardian slowly rises, making it very clear that nobody is getting past without a fight, and when asked, Susumu confirms he's here to enter Pandora's labyrinth. The knight's response is simple and to the point: defeat him, and the path is open. A system alert identifies the level 8 warrior, and Susumu remembers this is Wushuan, Domo Village's greatest hero. He is the same legend who single-handedly defeated 300 invaders in his prime, having been ordered by the previous village chief to guard this labyrinth 50 years ago. Susumu knows this knight has been guarding the gate for 50 years without ever moving, and the guy is basically a ghost at this point, running on nothing but pure willpower. While he respects the loyalty, Susumu decides it's time to put this legend to rest, because he figures this kind of existence is just another word for pure suffering. He draws his sword, ready to give this noble knight the honorable end he deserves, and Wushuan seems to acknowledge his resolve, impressed by the kid's powerful aura. But that doesn't mean he's just going to roll over and let him pass, instead declaring that the only way through is by earning his respect in combat. Susumu just grins, more than happy to accept the legendary hero's challenge, and the two immediately clash, their blades meeting in a shower of sparks. Susumu grins, impressed that even as a ghost, this old hero's sword skills are still top tier. He channels his own power, engulfing his blade in a swirling vortex of purple energy, unleashing weaving flame to meet the knight's attack in a massive explosion of power. The sheer force of the blow actually sends the legendary guardian skidding backward across the ground. Our boy just smirks, clearly thrilled to finally have a fight that's actually interesting for once, and Wushuan seems to agree, acknowledging Susumu as a worthy opponent who's earned his respect. So he sheathes his sword, preparing to show our boy what real power actually looks like. With his eyes glowing red, the knight declares he's finally going all out for this fight, and Susumu immediately recognizes the move that caused a total meltdown on the forums in his past life. Turns out this old ghost has a divine skill that can wipe out entire parties in a single flash. Susumu knows this is Peerless Slash, a divine skill that scales with the user's sheer willpower, and he remembers this one attack is so infamous it gate-kept countless players from the labyrinth. The knight roars Soul Ignition, unleashing the full force of his legendary power, swinging his blade in a massive world-ending arc of pure destructive energy. Instead of dodging, Susumu decides this is the perfect time to test his own limits, meeting the legendary attack head-on to see just how strong it really is. The sheer force of the blow has him gritting his teeth, struggling to hold his ground, as the impact tears up the entire battlefield, sending him flying backward through the air. But just as he braces for the end, the overwhelming pressure suddenly vanishes completely, leaving him standing there totally confused as the attack's energy just fizzles out. The attack leaves a nasty gash, but Susumu is just impressed by the legendary power In fact, he's grinning because this is the first real challenge he's had all day. Turns out the knight stopped his own attack, deciding the fight was already over, but our boy is just getting warmed up, thinking this is the only way to honor a legend. Wushuan tells him to retreat, offering to spare his life out of respect for a fellow hero, but Susumu isn't backing down, declaring that fighting a powerhouse is his entire reason for being here. The knight warns him that he's already seen through all his moves and the outcome won't change, which gets a confident smirk from Susumu, who's been holding back this entire time. He announces it's time to unleash his true class. As the system reveals his Apex Swordsman title, activating a talent that boosts his sword's stats by a ridiculous 200%. Wushuan is stunned, realizing Susumu's aura is somehow climbing even higher than before, and our boy just grins, declaring this is the real final battle he's been waiting for, promising to keep his word and absolutely buzzing with excitement for a proper fight. He vows to finally free the old hero from his eternal post with this one last clash, and the knight is completely blown away by Susumu's sheer battle intent, feeling something stir, because our boy's fighting spirit reminds him of his own fiery youth from long ago. That same hot-blooded passion starts uncontrollably returning to his ghostly body, as he remembers what it felt like to be a true warrior in his absolute prime. That forgotten feeling surges through him, reigniting his spirit and giving him a new purpose, and with his own power flaring, he finally understands what it means to be a warrior again. Susumu meets the knight's blade head-on, his own sword crackling with amplified energy, and the old hero recognizes Susumu's conviction, seeing the true spirit of a warrior in him. Their clash sends a massive shockwave, tearing through the area, pushing Wushuan back, but Susumu lands perfectly, clearly enjoying the fight and ready for the next round. He taunts the Guardian, demanding he use his legendary Peerless Slash to settle things for good, and as Perfect Grip triggers a 30% stat boost, the knight agrees to his opponent's challenge. Wushuan prepares to unleash the full force of his ultimate world-ending attack, while Susumu just grins, his own power flaring as he declares this is how they'll decide the winner. The knight unleashes Peerless Slash, a massive arc of pure energy meant to erase everything, but instead of dodging, our boy charges straight into it, meeting the divine skill with his own power. The two ultimate attacks collide in a massive explosion of pure, world-ending energy, and the resulting shockwave completely engulfs the entire battlefield in a blinding flash. When the dust settles, Susumu is barely standing with 8% HP, but he's won the fight. The old knight spirit thanks him for the honorable duel, his duty finally at an end, grateful that our boy gave him a proper warrior's funeral after 50 years of waiting. As Wushuan's body dissolves into light, Susumu agrees it was a fitting end for a legend. His good deed immediately nets him max favorability with the ghost, triggering a hidden reward, a completely unexpected bonus that our boy definitely wasn't counting on when he started this. The system offers him the chance to learn Wushuan's divine skill, Peerless Slash, right then and there, leaving Susumu absolutely speechless that he just got gifted a world-breaking ultimate move. The system confirms he's learned Peerless Slash, a unique skill that's now officially off the market for good, and he chugs a potion, thrilled to get a skill he never even knew existed in his past life. Defeating the legend also nets him a massive XP boost, pushing him straight to level 6, and with a final salute he promises to carry on the old hero's powerful legacy, before immediately telling the system to hide his true class so he can get down to business. He steps through the massive gates, officially kicking off the Pandora's labyrinth quest, and the objective is simple: fight through the outer and middle layers to reach the core. He immediately equips some new fire-resistant bracers, clearly getting ready for a fight, and right on cue, he's greeted by an entire welcoming committee of angry goblins, but it looks like their much bigger, much angrier boss is roaring right behind them. Susumu sarcastically greets the goblin horde, powering up his weaving flame to return their enthusiasm, and he immediately carves through the front line, racking up a ton of easy experience points. The entire mob gets wiped out in seconds, netting him what he calls a level's worth of EXP. With the outer layer cleared without breaking a sweat, he sets his sights on the middle labyrinth, knowing this section is a mental puzzle that broke countless players trying for that S-rank sword. Luckily for him, being a prophet means he already has the ultimate cheat sheet for this test, remembering the simple solution he read on the forums in his past life: 4 steps forward, 1 back. With that little bit of future knowledge, he confidently starts walking the path to the core. A system alert confirms he's solved it, teleporting him to a serene field where the real test begins, and waiting for him is a mysterious woman who seems genuinely surprised anyone actually made it this far. The system identifies the woman as Witch Pandora, an exiled mage with some seriously shady plans, and Susumu recognizes her instantly, knowing her charming appearance is just a total facade. He immediately draws his sword, calling her out as the decayed and evil witch she truly is. But Pandora just plays coy, asking if it's really appropriate to threaten a beautiful lady, a title Susumu says expired 50 years ago when she became something truly ugly and evil. Turns out Wushuan's real mission wasn't guarding a labyrinth, but guarding her in her eternal prison. With her identity as Domo Town's source of evil exposed, she starts to transform, letting out a sinister laugh as her true terrifying power begins to finally manifest. She's actually impressed that he saw right through her disguise from the very beginning, revealing her monstrous three-eyed form and asking what kind of reward he deserves for it. Pandora promises to reward him with a death of despair, her monstrous form crackling with pure evil, and with a maniacal laugh, she summons a wicked-looking demonic sword from a glowing cube as the system confirms she's the level 10 unique boss, and the only way out is to kill her. But Susumu's eyes lock onto the blade, instantly recognizing the prize he came here for, realizing the legendary S-rank divine sword is the exact same weapon she's holding. Pandora scoffs at the puny human trying to claim her sword, lunging in for the kill, and she immediately questions his worthiness, blasting him with a massive beam of pure energy, sending Susumu flying as he acknowledges the raw power of a level 10 boss. He's actually a little impressed, admitting her strength is enough to make even him shudder. But Pandora notes that despite the power gap, his face doesn't show a single trace of fear. Pandora lunges forward, promising to show our boy what true despair actually feels like, and her massive demonic sword comes crashing down, completely overwhelming his defenses with raw power. She gloats about the massive gap between them as their blades clash in a storm of energy, forcing Susumu to admit he's at a huge disadvantage in this close-quarters brawl. Her insane reach lets her land a clean hit, sending him flying backward across the arena, and his sword gets knocked clean out of his hand, leaving him completely disarmed. With his HP dropping to a critical 16%, Pandora immediately closes in for the finishing blow, landing another brutal strike that sends his health plummeting down to a measly 8%. The sheer force of the impact tears up the ground, leaving him staggering from the blow, and Pandora stands over him, declaring the fight is over for the greedy little human. With Susumu on his last legs, Pandora gloats that the fight is finally over, but our boy just smirks, promising it's only over after he lands one final blow. She just laughs, mocking him for being disarmed and asking if he'll use his scabbard, so he triggers perfect grip, channeling raw power into the empty sheath he's holding. Pandora immediately recognizes the technique as the same one that kept her sealed for 50 years, and she completely panics, lunging forward to kill him before he can finish the attack. But Susumu just calmly tells her it's already way too late to stop what's coming, unleashing the full power of Wushuan's divine skill. Peerless Slash with his scabbard. The attack erupts in a massive vortex of energy, a perfect copy of the legend's ultimate move, fueled by all the despair from his past life to defy fate with this one single strike. Pandora gets absolutely shredded by the full force of the scabbard-channeled attack, letting out a final scream, as the system confirms his burning soul Peerless Slash is a certified S-rank ultimate move. Turns out his absolute hatred for his past life was enough to unleash a fate-overturning strike, and the resulting blast completely disintegrates Pandora, leaving Susumu on his last legs. With the witch gone, the S-rank divine sword she was wielding clatters to the ground, a victory that cost him every last drop of HP but granted him unimaginable power. System alerts immediately confirm Pandora is defeated, opening the exit and dropping a massive XP bomb, and that huge experience boost instantly pushes him all the way to level 9 in one shot. Even though he's totally exhausted, he knows he can't stick around in this place for long, so he grabs his brand new divine sword, finally claiming the prize he came here for. He smirks, finally holding the only S-rank divine sword in the entire beginner area, and after all that work, Pandora's demon sword is officially his for the taking. The system confirms it's a monster, with a scaling power boost and a locked special effect. He's impressed by its raw potential, knowing its true power is still waiting to be unlocked, especially since the base version already adds a massive 50% dark attribute damage. Susumu figures once it's fully powered up, it'll easily rival the best sword from his past life. But as he heads for the exit, he realizes he can't just walk around showing it off, which is when he remembers his hidden skill. King's Sword Vault, perfect for stashing divine weapons. He decides to hide the blade there, especially since his regular inventory is almost full anyway, activating the vault to safely store his new S-rank prize before heading back to town. He tries activating the vault, but for a tense second, absolutely nothing happens, until his hand suddenly starts glowing with a strange energy he's never seen before. Susumu stares down, completely baffled by this flashy reaction he wasn't expecting, realizing this is way more than just a simple storage skill he read about. A massive golden aura erupts around him, forming a spectral cloak and even horns, leaving him wondering if this is some hidden special effect he just unlocked. Before he can even process it, the divine sword is yanked from his grasp, flying straight into a glitching, digital-looking portal that just opened in front of him. He can only watch as the blade gets sucked into the vault's dimensional space, and a system alert confirms his new S-rank weapon is now safely stored away. The system confirms the vault's special effect, granting him a solid 20% boost to all stats, and he quickly calculates this puts his combat power on par with a rank 15 player already. Better yet, the buff scales with his own strength, creating a truly broken feedback loop of power, and he's absolutely thrilled, realizing he can strengthen himself 8 more times to reach god-tier levels. But his power fantasy is cut short by a massive red system alert he definitely wasn't expecting. Turns out he's been grinding for over 12 hours, and the game's anti-addiction system has cut off his EXP gain. The system basically tells him to go touch grass, a restriction that applies to every single player, so realizing it's 8 a.m., he decides to log out and head to school so his mom won't worry. He initiates the logout sequence, the world dissolving into a sea of digital static, only for a final message to reveal the vault's power boost is transferring to his real body. Susumu jolts awake in his room, realizing the game's power boost just followed him into reality, and he's completely stunned that a simple skill could actually affect his physical mechanical body, so to test this insane theory, he immediately drops to the floor for 100 push-ups. He bangs them out with absolutely zero effort, his body feeling impossibly light and strong, confirming with a grin that the power-up is 100% real and totally effortless. Before, he only had muscle memory from his past life, but now his body can actually keep up. Realizing this ultimate awakening from the game is the key to everything he's been planning. He quickly reins it in though, knowing he can't get carried away with his family's future at stake, but he can still feel the raw power overflowing as he clenches his fist with new resolve, swearing he'll restore the Hoda family to its former glory, no matter what it takes. He comes downstairs to find his mom already left for work, but made him breakfast first, and he happily digs in, grateful for a meal he hasn't had in a very long time. After inhaling the entire bowl, he gets ready to finally head out for the day, leaving his rundown apartment building with a brand new sense of purpose. With his newfound power, he's actually feeling pretty confident about heading to school, only to arrive and find his desk has been completely trashed by some local bullies. The other students just watch, clearly too scared to say anything about the obvious vandalism, but Susumu isn't even surprised, just annoyed by the incredibly petty display, since he already knows this is the work of a punk named Saburo. Right on cue, his phone starts ringing, and it's the exact guy he was just thinking about. Susumu calmly answers the phone, already knowing exactly who's on the other end, and right on cue, Saburo demands he get to the rooftop or his friend gets torn apart. Our boy's expression immediately hardens, daring the punk to even try it, remembering his friend Lin Cheng is timid but also fiercely loyal to a fault, which is why Lin Cheng is yelling for him not to come, even while getting stomped on, telling Susumu to just run and report them, proving he's a true ride-or-die friend. But that loyalty just earns him an even worse beating from the thugs. Saburo grabs a nearby pipe, deciding to take his frustration up a notch, swinging it down hard to make an example out of the helpless kid. Then he gets back on the phone, taunting Susumu about his so-called friendship. Susumu arrives on the rooftop like a blur, dropping one of the thugs before anyone even blinks, leaving Saburo on the ground, completely stunned by our boy's impossible speed, and he immediately spots his friend Lin Cheng, who's been beaten pretty badly. He stands over the bully, completely unfazed as the rest of the goons just stare in shock, and Saburo is absolutely terrified, realizing he just picked a fight with the wrong guy. So he starts screaming empty threats, warning that his brother Yao will get revenge for this, which makes Susumu's expression darken, realizing he means Yao of the Ryuzaki family. Right on cue, a new crew shows up, with their leader thanking him for disciplining his pet dog. Susumu just glances over, completely unimpressed and asking how many of them he has to deal with, before calling them all out as Yao Ryuzaki's lackeys, making it clear he's ready to fight. Yao Ryuzaki's crew looks absolutely furious, clearly not used to being challenged by anyone, as Susumu calls them out for ganging up on the weak and acting tough in a pack, adding that no matter how much trash you pile up, it's still just trash. That little insult sends Yao into a rage, screaming for his lackeys to take him down, and the whole crew immediately charges forward, vowing to shut his mouth for good. Lin Cheng panics, yelling for his friend to be careful, warning him they're experienced fighters, but our boy just scoffs at the idea of them being tough opponents anymore, casually sidestepping the first punch like it was moving in slow motion. The goon is completely stunned, realizing Susumu's speed is anything but normal, leaving him wide open for a brutal counterstrike right to the jaw. Susumu knows he's not just running on muscle memory from his past life anymore, because the King's Sword Vault buff has turned his body into a literal weapon, which is terrible news for the rest of the crew who charge in with absolutely no plan. He moves like a blur, effortlessly kicking another thug right out of the fight, sending 2 more goons flying without even breaking a sweat. He's actually impressed, realizing his new strength is even more effective than he expected, until one of the lackeys finally manages to grab him from behind, thinking he's one screaming for the others to jump him while he's supposedly trapped. Susumu just scoffs, sarcastically asking if this is what they call catching him, before effortlessly twisting the guy's arm and preparing to snap it. He effortlessly shatters the goon's hold, completely unimpressed by their so-called trap, as another idiot charges in with a pipe, screaming for the others to smash his head open, but the weapon comes crashing down only for Susumu to catch it with his bare hands, mocking the guy's pathetic strength and asking if that's honestly the best he can do. With a quick snap, he breaks the pipe and sends the entire crew flying with a single move, leaving every last one of them scattered across the rooftop, completely out of the fight. Yao is left totally stunned on the ground, wondering how the hell Susumu got this strong, while our boy calmly walks over and yanks the original bully, Saburo, right off his feet. With ice in his eyes, he demands to know where his owner Yao is hiding, which sends the so-called boss into a cold sweat, realizing he's next on the list. Turns out Yao wasn't on the roof, he was in the gym trying to intimidate a girl, threatening her to become his girlfriend while his lackeys try to look tough. The whole crew surrounds her, thinking they have all the power in this situation, until a blur of motion in the background signals their day is about to be ruined, and Yao finally notices he's got some very unwelcome company approaching from behind. Susumu drags the unconscious Saburo across the floor, mocking the Ryuzaki family's new low, tossing the goon at Yao's feet and sarcastically announcing he's returned his lost pets. That little comment sends Yao's remaining crew into an absolute rage, ready to fight, So two of them immediately charge forward, screaming they're going to shut him up for good. But our boy just casually kicks the first guy mid-sprint, completely unimpressed by their attack. The second goon gets sent flying with a single kick, leaving just the main muscle left to deal with, and Yao cracks his knuckles, clearly thinking he's a much bigger threat than the rest of his crew. But our boy just casually blocks his punch with a high kick, completely unimpressed by the so-called expert, recognizing him as Yao, a branch member of the Ryuzaki family assigned to be his personal watchdog. Turns out this guy is actually trained in martial arts, unlike the other low-level thugs he just wiped out, so he throws a powerful right hook, expecting to end the fight right there and then, only for Susumu to meet his punch head-on, ready to settle an old score from his past life. He remembers this is the same creep who hounded him until the day he died, a constant shadow of oppression, recalling how the Ryuzaki family had his entire family under constant, suffocating surveillance, and he's absolutely determined to make sure they don't get the chance to destroy his family's future again. He declares this life will be different, effortlessly slipping past Yao's so-called expert punch, and Yao is completely stunned, unable to process how our boy just dodged that attack. Susumu immediately counters with a brutal elbow right to the jaw, not wasting a single second, his eyes glowing as he vows to reunite the scattered Hoda family and reclaim their honor. He follows up with another devastating blow, channeling all his resolve into the strike, declaring this single punch marks the official start of his counterattack against the Ryuzaki clan. He moves like a blur, completely outclassing the trained martial artist with pure speed, even throwing in a taunt, asking if the big shot is already out of moves, as he lands another clean hit, leaving Yao completely overwhelmed and on the defensive. With Yao on the floor, he announces it's his turn, just as the girl yells for him to stop. Right on cue, the head of student guidance shows up to suspend Susumu for 3 days, and the girl he just saved tries to explain he was only helping her out, but the teacher immediately shuts her down, basically blaming her for being there in the first place. He orders her back to class, leaving her completely stunned by the sheer injustice of it all, as Susumu asks if Yao's gang is just getting off scot-free for their part in this. He calmly accepts the unfair verdict, saying he understands the situation perfectly, which is that if he's getting suspended anyway, he might as well make it worth his while. So he immediately goes right back to pummeling Yao, completely ignoring the faculty's presence, earning himself a 2-week suspension while declaring he's not stopping until he's satisfied. The teacher threatens to call his mom, but Susumu is way too busy delivering a well-deserved beatdown. That threat against his mom just fuels his rage, as he vows to settle this past life grudge right now.